Foot steering and working towards wave riding can sometimes be left till quite late on in the sport. However, if you do this, you are missing out. It is a fundamental skill, and the earlier you get into it, the quicker your windsurfing will progress. We will be presenting the light wind skills, and then whilst planing, you will see how to progress to foot steering whilst hooked in. Lastly, we will examine rail-to-rail foot steering. The basic fundamentals can be learned quite early on. On a big board in light winds, you are already learning the key skills involved in foot steering. Looking where you want to go. As you head upwind, you look upwind. This turns your head, hips and shoulders. As you turn downwind, the same applies. You also learn that you have to balance the rig's movements. As the rig comes forward and across to turn downwind, you have to move back so as not to be pulled forward. With your body back, you are also able to scissor the board. When the rig goes back, you have to move your body forwards in order to keep the board flat. This is of vital importance in foot steering. Lastly, you will start to surf the boom. The hands come apart to twist the rig to bear away. The hands then come together to go upwind, as is common practice for upwind sailing. So, get into some dynamic steering. Let's kick off our planing foot steering by doing it hooked in first. But before we go on, please remember that in order to foot steer, you need your equipment to be tuned right. So please check out the tuning chapter before taking to the water. During your first attempts at foot steering, you are aiming to make gradually increasing changes in direction. From carving on your heel side upwind to carving on your toe side downwind. Your hips should balance the rig's position. Let's look at the technique. Look upwind and drop down, and then gradually weight your heels. Lean forwards, out and down to flatten the board. Sail upwind. Slide backhand down and sink down low. Bring the rig forwards and across you. From here, you can push the board off the wind through the front foot and your toe side. After the initial steer, your hips will come more forward and over the board as you start to come over the rail. Keep the rig away throughout. Work towards bigger changes in direction and keep low to resist the sail's power whilst hooked in. This will give you a feel of the subtle changes in pressure and how your head, hips and hands respond. Carve through bent ankles and knees. Now, let's look at the more radical changes in direction that sailing unhooked can afford you. It is advisable to first get skilled at sailing unhooked, and then you will be able to keep more speed. We look at this in more depth in the GI preparation chapter. Let's look at an overview for rail-to-rail foot steering. Slide the backhand down the boom, unhook and hang. Scissor the board off the wind. Extend the rig forwards as you come over the front foot and look forwards. Carve hard through the toes, ankles and knees. As you come to downwind, begin to flatten the board. Transfer your weight over to the heel side and bring your hands together. Look upwind and drop down, and then carve hard off of your heel side, aiming to throw some spray. As you're carving upwind, really get down low and swing forwards whilst the rig goes back. When foot steering, there are a lot of actions going on at the same time. Therefore, consider just trying to work on one area at a time. The main areas where it's all going on are the head, hand, and the hips. The head is looking where you want the board to go. This turns the shoulders and the hips, and the board will then scissor. Look downwind and you go downwind. You can see how the head changing direction to look upwind both initiates and assists the whole heel side turn. You are surfing the water, but your hands are most definitely surfing the boom. Your hand position on the boom has a huge effect on how much power the rig can give back to you. With the hands apart, you can sheet in and open the sail in the downwind carve. Then, as you head upwind, the hands come together in order not to oversheet the sail, and so you can get the rig further back. The hips are balancing the sail's position. With the sail coming forward, you are coming over with the rig, but the hips are relatively back, though they are over your toe side rail. It's the forward rig that allows you to get into this position. Crucial in carving upwind is the hips coming forward as the sail moves back. Without this, the tail would sink and a big loss in speed would result. So get out there and get foot steering, because wave riding and carve jibes is where you are heading. As you improve in this, you'll keep more speed and throw more spray.